You've asked something in those quiet moments, lying awake, staring past a screen. What am I supposed to be doing with my life? And somewhere along the way, you started to believe that everyone else got an answer. And you got a shrug. So you kept searching, you kept reading, waiting for the lightning bolt to hit. But here's what nobody told you. Purpose isn't something you find. It's something you follow. It's hiding in the things that have always pulled at you. And in the work you've been avoiding. By the end of this episode, you'll walk away with a real way to follow what pulls you and a better understanding of what magic you're looking for that is lying in the work you are avoiding. My favorite quote. My name is Michael Perry, and I'm joined today by Justin Gates.
Howdy.
And this is the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Today we're talking about finding your purpose, which sounds really lofty, right? It's one of those things that you can see everywhere. You know, I've seen a lot of videos out there just like, find your purpose. But it was something that I spend most of my life wondering on. I know many people who are struggling with this very thing. And it's this trap where life just becomes unfulfilling, where there's just this daily grind. Go to work, come home, doom scroll, whatever, go to bed, repeat.
Yeah, well, it's not just going to walk up and punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And it's sorry I laughed during your introduction, but that one got me, dude. Is where you would you say you start to believe that everyone else gets an answer? No, they don't.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the problem here. The lie of the lightning bolt. You are not going to be struck by lightning and find your purpose. Right?
Yeah, the perfect opportunity is going to land in your lap.
Right, right. Opportunities do land in your lap, but you got to be aware, and you got to be resonating in order to accept those, right? But that's one of the biggest lies people are taught about purpose, is that it's supposed to just hit you. Right? And we imagine that one magical day we're going to wake up and suddenly know exactly who we are and what we're here to do and what our calling is and how everything is supposed to unfold before us forever and ever. Right? As if our purpose is gonna show up like a DoorDash is gonna bring it to us, and it's fully formed and it's just big dramatic certain thing. No. That's not how purpose happens. It doesn't work that way. It is rarely, if ever, handed to us as a complete map.
Yep. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but
sure,
don't be counting on that, because that's like one in a million. Like,
right. People do hit the lottery. It can happen, I suppose. It's probably not going to happen to anyone listening to this show.
Yeah.
The odds are, right? That's just the odds, you know?
Yeah.
The odds of hitting the lottery is what, like 1 in 335 million? Okay. Yeah. Right? Something like that. So purpose is rarely, if ever, handed out to us that way. More often than not, it's discovered through motion and awareness and attention, curiosity. You have to be brave, Michael. You have to endure trials. You have to fall flat on your damn face and fail, and then correct yourself, right? You need to be willing to listen and see what's happening around you.
And you can't be afraid of the discomfort of exploring. One of my favorite quotes I heard back when I was a kid, this has followed me since then, is luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I have believed that ever since, and it has become so true in my own life. Like, I have had opportunities appear everywhere, and it's been beautiful, but it's not due to sitting on a couch and waiting for them to appear. It's putting myself out there. It's discovering myself.
Sitting there thinking about it, right? You're gonna think your way into purpose.
Yeah.
Right? Because but you can't. You must participate in life, because in order to reflect, right? And reflection is important here. In order to reflect, you have to have things to reflect on. And that means you have to participate. Because if without movement, we just get stuck in the rut and we get deeper into the ruts, right?
Yeah.
It just becomes another form of waiting, another form of avoidance, really.
Yeah. Well, I think about the healing journey and the whole, like, we gotta not try to become a new person overnight. We have to meet ourselves where we're at and take those small steps. I know back in the day when I had all these different business aspirations, I never once stopped to consider who would I need to become to actually be able to pull this off. Because I bet if I would have reflected on that, I would have been a lot more discerning about my advantageousness.
I know who you needed to become. I know. You needed to become the student, because the student is the best teacher. That's the axiom I have for this segment here. Why do you think I picked that one? The student is the best teacher. Give me one guess why we picked that one. Why I picked that one.
That's a great question. If I were to guess, my belief on this is that we have to be able to humble ourselves to becoming students. In order to learn a new trade, to advantageously go and pursue a new career, we have to allow ourselves to be novices again. We have to allow ourselves to be sponges, and we have to be able to say, I don't know. And I think a lot of people struggle with the pride involved with saying, I actually don't know any of this. I don't know what I'm doing.
You know, you're 100% right. The student is the best teacher because they take on this posture, as you said, a novice. Not a person who demands all the answers before even beginning, but the person who observes and questions and experiments and reflects and listens to the advice and counsel of others, but really becomes a student of life itself. Finding purpose requires becoming a student of your own life. You study what draws you. You study what drains you. You study what brings you joy. What creates resistance and drag? What keeps returning these patterns? What pain has taught you, right? And what kind of service feels aligned with your heart? This also releases the shame of feeling like you're always falling behind. And that is at the center of this anxiety that surrounds purpose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody else has purpose but me, which is not true. Most of us are struggling with that. But a student is not behind because they don't know everything yet. A student is never behind. They're on the path of unfolding, right?
Yeah.
That's where we need to be.
Yeah. No, I think one of the most powerful things you can do, even once you become skilled at something, if you can keep approaching things from the lens of, I don't know anything, and it doesn't mean you don't know your stuff, but have that curiosity of maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there's a perspective I don't see. The more we allow ourselves to sit in the seat of being a novice, the more we can absorb, retain, evaluate. When we feel like we have all the answers, we become rigid in our own understanding of the materials we are supposedly experts in.
Right. And that's where people get stuck, because they have to feel certain before they can move, right?
Yeah.
Why does that pressure to find your purpose create so much anxiety? And how much of that keeps people frozen, keeps people stuck?
Yeah. I mean, I think our souls genuinely crave that answer, right? But I think it gets distorted by comparison, like you said. You know, we compare ourselves to our friends who are doing well. We compare ourselves to where we're at in life and how we see people in our lives who have things that we want. And we end up, I see so many people where their purpose that they're trying to let drive them is all based on material goods they get at the end of it, instead of with it resonating with who they are as a person.
Right.
You know, I wrote a paper in one of my psychology classes about abundance and how life should be about abundance, but abundance isn't about being wealthy with money. It's about being wealthy with what brings you joy, family, connection, friendships, you know, opportunities, travel, whatever it is that speaks to your soul. You can't have all of this. I mean, you can, but it's important to discover what is abundance to you.
Finding contentment instead of the endless chase.
Yes.
Which is a show that we did not too long ago, right? Yeah. 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 But this is why I so much love the idea of becoming a student. In the Ashla progression, you start off as a student and you work through 9 levels. Level 8 is mastery, right? You become a master of yourself, a master of, right, of the way, of the path. But I said there's 9 levels, right? If if level 8 is mastery, then what possibly could be level 9? Level 9 is that you become the student. In our hearts and in our philosophy, the student is greater than the master. Because you go to mastery, and then you become the student again, right? So, and that's why I love that so much, because it is necessary. Because this path doesn't have an ending.
Yeah, and life will make it so. I was working with a client recently where I got to bring this up because it was fascinating. This was someone who had become very successful in helping women in empowerment. And, life had become challenging. A whole bunch of difficult people in her life that she's dealing with all around, and it's sort of feeling like she's back to square one. And it's like, no, you have done great. You are doing amazing work. You're just now past master, where you're now the student again. There's now the greater level for you to hit, this new lesson to learn, to evolve, not just your work, but who you are as a person. And it's beautiful. It sucks. Usually these type of lessons are hard learned, but it's all part of expansion. And I know that will be an endless thing for any one of us who travel the path, is we will get to a place where I know what I'm doing. I'm confident. And then life will humble us. And we will have to start over. And it doesn't mean that we don't have all the knowledge and wisdom we gained along the way, but it does mean it's time to start learning again.
It's why this is the most exciting time for a luminary who has found mastery in Ashla. This is why it's exciting, because you now get to learn everything over again with a different mind. With wisdom. Instead of uncertainty and crazy and chaos, you get to do it with wisdom. I always think of it like this. What if I could go back to being 20 years old, but with my wisdom now? The wisdom I earned, and right? Yeah. A 20-year-old Justin with the wisdom of a 49-year-old Justin would be a much different being, right? Yeah. So that's why it's exciting, because we get to get to a point, then we get to start over again. But from a different perspective, and that's what it's about. So how does this show up, this performance anxiety, really? What is it we're talking about? There's really this pressure and anxiety and stress about finding your purpose, because, again, you think everybody else has it except you, and it's not true. but purpose doesn't stay hidden from us because we don't have clues, right? Right. It stays hidden because we are avoiding those clues.
Oh, so often. And again, one of the reasons I love the saying, the magic you are looking for is in the work you're avoiding, is because if you sit with yourself long enough, you will know exactly what's holding you back from the life you want to build. And it could be things from addiction, habits, relationships. It could be just the fear of getting out into the world or experiencing new things. And I think people hit this shift where they go from justifying those things to then they start researching. They start trying to plan, right? I was someone who had 1,000 plans on how I was going to change my life, with maybe 10% of those ones I acted on, and every single one of those ones that fell short in the end. And the issue is, when we get stuck in this mode of trying to investigate, trying to plan, that's still not action. That is still avoidance.
Yes.
Because just like this healing work, you can get all the answers, you can understand all the mechanisms that run you, and your life will be hell for it, because now you're going to be aware of it without changing anything. True fulfillment comes from pursuing it through action. The universe can't meet you on a couch. The universe can meet you out in the wild when you're talking to people, when you're breaking through that comfort zone, because that's what really keeps us stuck. We get so comfortable in this life we've been living that we don't want to push ourselves to do more, to get into that discomfort of networking or going to these events. Yet it's in those very things is where you're going to start discovering yourself.
Yeah. There are people out there right now listening saying, easy for you two to say, it seems like you guys have found your purpose. Respectfully, you're just avoiding the work. You're just avoiding it. You're endlessly researching. You're endlessly consuming content about the life that you want instead of actually living it. You'll watch the videos, listen to the podcast, buy the books, save all the posts on Facebook, build the plan. Greatest plan ever built, but never take the first real step. Let me give you an example. I'm gonna pick on you, Michael. Michael had done all the things I just said. He was an avoidance master. But you know what he's doing nowadays? He's on this podcast. He's teaching, learning, growing. But you know what else he's doing? Every other Tuesday, he's out there, putting himself out there, and running a class, in-person class. He's starting to coach clients. 8 years ago, he planned to do all that. He dreamed about doing all that. He read all the books, listened to all the podcasts, listened to my endless lecturing about everything in the world. None of that shit mattered, though, because now he's actually doing it. That's the difference. Respectfully, of course.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I heard this a while back is like, you know, it's great to plan, it's great to have ideas, but action, just do it. Just do the thing. It doesn't matter if it's sloppy, messy, not perfect, any of that crap. Just start doing it. Start taking the action you have been wanting to take.
You know, something, I'll call myself out here. Many years ago, there's a person out there who does kind of similar things, some of the things that I do now. They were writing books and they were kind of coaching, kind of teaching in their own way. And I was very humbly, sanctimoniously envious of them.
Yeah.
I don't think you could be humble and jealous at the same time. Really. If you're jealous, you're not humble, right? That's like having, you know, spiritual ego, but it's that quiet envy. And we, you know, usually think of envy as a thing that's ugly, but I can shine that turd, right? I can make it look like it's an enlightened envy. No, there's no such thing. If I'm envious, that is how this shows up for me. Because they're doing something similar to what I want to do. Of course, I can never do it like them, and they can never do it like me. But I was envious of them, right? Yeah. So that is also information how this shows up. Sometimes what we resent in others is pointing at something we secretly want. Or that may be one of those clues to our purpose because we kind of have this desire. And it's something we haven't given ourselves permission to pursue yet, right?
Yeah.
Look, if someone else's courage to do something irritates you, it's time for us to ask a question of ourselves.
Yeah. Well, it's like what you're describing, the envy thing. It's like, man, again, triggers are the greatest messengers because envy tells you something. Envy says, I'm being called to act. I am envious because I know I want to be doing this. And it doesn't mean to blame the person or criticize or anything like that, which you didn't do. But as a call to action.
Maybe quietly I did.
Yeah.
Oh, this person became my worst enemy and never even knew it.
Yeah.
Never even knew it. And that's very petty of me, right? I of course got over it, but that's because I'm too busy living my purpose now. Right? Yeah. Once we get in our lane and we do our thing, we don't have time to be envious anymore. But if you're no longer envious, then maybe you are living your purpose and you just don't know it.
Yeah. I could see the logic in that.
Right?
Yeah, because in the end, you start realizing, especially like doing the work we're doing what we're passionate about. I can see someone, one of my friends, making tons of money, and there is zero feeling of like, that's where I need to be. That's where I want to be. There might be you know what, I'd like to make some money, but there's no envy there. And it's because I know I'm in my lane. I am doing what I'm passionate about.
Right.
And I'm following the path I need to make a career out of this, to get to abundance out of this.
Right. But as you said, abundance, you say this a lot, abundance means different things to different people. Yeah.
Lots of money sounds great, but what I care about is connection. That's what fills me up.
Yeah. And that's the abundance you receive.
Yeah.
Right. But we definitely can't do it by being complacent and by, trying to say that I'll figure this all out on my own first and then I'll show up. Well, what does that mean? Well, when is that going to be? Right? Also, I want to address real quick, there may be someone out there saying, dude, I'm 65 years old. I haven't found my purpose. It's too late for me.
Yeah.
Is it, Michael? Is it really too late for you?
No.
You're 65 years old?
Think about Colonel Sanders, man. KFC, that dude was like 72 when he started that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was after a bunch of failures.
Right. So, yeah, you're never too old. We need to get, what's his name, Gary Vee on here to answer that question.
Oh, my God, yes.
I mean, he'll just scream at you guys and, whatever. But that reminds me of an axiom. Decay comes from complacency. And we get very complacent when we start making excuses for not having purpose, right? I mean, and really, it's we all have purpose. We just ignoring the clues. But we can start to decay and become envious and make excuses and stuff, right? But
well, no,
really,
I think that's the perfect axiom.
Because at the heart of this is avoidance, right? We agree on that? Yeah. The heart of this whole problem is avoidance. And that avoidance creates the decay in your soul. Not because you're bad or lazy or whatever, but because you've stopped moving toward growth. And complacency is an easy trap to fall into because it doesn't always feel like
yeah.
This is
we
how
can justify the hell out of it.
We fall into the comfort zone trap through this, don't we?
Yeah. Well, it's the perfect axiom for this because you're right. It is avoidance is at the heart of this. We slowly let little things tell us we can't do things, right? You have that rejection from a girl, and so you get a little more timid about asking anyone out. But then you decide for a year to not ask anyone out. You start getting more and more mental buildup on that one rejection that slowly just atrophies your ability. And soon you're justifying saying, you know what, women are just assholes, or I'm just going to get rejected anyway. And this happens on all levels, though, because all things we do that lie in discomfort often come from areas of our mind that atrophy, that decay. Mm-hmm. Because as they do, it becomes harder and harder to take that next step. And we justify, and we excuse, and we do everything we can to rationalize with ourselves on why doing this uncomfortable thing is wrong. And that's exactly what our minds are designed to do. You know, we're designed to what's the word I'm looking for? Our survival instincts is geared around keeping us safe. But we don't live in an age where we're running from bears anymore. Right. Now we're running from relationships. We're running from accountability. We're running
from rejection and disappointment and failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are worse than bears, by the way. At least a bear you can see coming, right?
Yeah.
You know what that thing can do to you. But these other things, these psychological things, these spiritual shadows, not only can you not see them before they're too late, most of the time, but they can wreak havoc on you for your entire life. A bear is going to mess you up for a minute. These things could follow you around for a lifetime. Worse yet, like you said, we'll justify them and become friends. Become friends with them.
What would you say the thing is that most people, when they get to this place where they're not trying to discover themselves, step out of these comfort zones, what would you say the most common thing is that people tell themselves that's actually avoidance in disguise?
That it's the lie of independence. It's the lie of freedom. If you're being held by these shadows, if you're being held by these conditions, avoidance, they'll say, I'm just really independent. I don't need anything. But really, they're comparing themselves. They're afraid to be rejected. They're having all these problems, right? All these shadows, but still call themselves free. And sometimes they are in a way independent. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with being capable and self-reliant. In fact, you need to be. But those things tend to fall on the side of confidence and trust. If you're avoiding things, right, you're not very trusting of yourself, right? You're not really able to stand on your own if that's true. But sometimes independence is not independence. Sometimes you're just isolating. Think of it as like isolation with better branding, better media coverage or something.
Yeah, right.
It really comes out like this, I'll figure it out on my own because before I let anybody see me failing, or I don't need help. But really what the deeper truth is, I'm afraid to need anyone because people have let me down. Or they'll say, I work better alone. You and I know people like that. I work better alone. When really, they just don't want to be witnessed. They don't want people watching them because they don't want to be watched before they feel ready, and they'll never feel ready, right? That's the problem. So, you know, and I've seen this in myself too from time to time. There are times where I can convince myself that I'm just, you know, preparing, bracing, really reflecting, or I'm just waiting for that perfect moment. But, you know, if I'm honest, I'm avoiding the discomfort of being seen in that process because I may not know where I'm at, right? And sometimes we don't, and that's okay though. But this is where the greater self has to challenge our lesser self, or a higher self and lower self. Because the lower self will say, stay hidden until you're ready, which again, generally is never, if you follow that, right? The higher self says, you know, being ready is not always the doorway to this. Sometimes just being willing to is right. And that curiosity and that willingness is what takes us to true freedom, not this avoidance.
Well, and it's so true, though, because we justify with all of our being. We give every excuse in the book, but there's a part of us that knows the truth, that knows what we need to do. And yeah, independence is one of the worst places it hides because it says, I am comfortable enough to live like this. But often what I notice, and I was one of these, is I don't feel like I'm living.
Yeah.
I had a heart-to-heart with someone I care deeply about a couple weeks ago, and they said, it's like, I honestly don't care if I die. And I knew what he meant. It wasn't that he was suicidal. It wasn't that he was actively searching for death. But it was this lack of fulfillment, of meaning, that had slowly taken over the life. Because when you're not willing to expand out of it, because it becomes so uncomfortable to break free, it becomes shackles. No matter how much we try to dress it up as bracelets.
Yeah, and that's why the counterparts to our philosophy, the Darksiders, we'll just call them, they seek to break chains, and those are the chains, what you just described, those are the chains that they say they're trying to break, but they're not. They've got all kinds of other issues that we won't get into in this show. but yeah. We are the jailer, we are the chains, we are the shackles, and we are around our own wrists, right? And I'm not identifying as, I'm just telling you you are the jailer. You are the one that builds the prisons for yourself, right? Yeah. You're the judge, you're the jury. At times you may even be the executioner. So, yeah.
You're also the one with the key.
You're the one with the key.
You're the only one with the key.
That's right. But that really brings us to the truth of how to start to integrate this, how to embody it, right? Because following what's true is the first step. And we don't do this, we don't solve this entire anxiousness over our purpose in one breath, in one sitting. But it's definitely right. But we need to start to follow the pull. Right? The thing that pulls us towards something, the things that we're avoiding. Right? And we all can name at least one thing that supernaturally draws us, like you know it when it happens. You know what I mean? Something that just grabs you by the insides and pulls you towards something.
Yeah.
And even if that's a small thing, even sometimes it'll feel impractical, unfinished, like, you know, I didn't plan for this, but here it is. That's okay, because that's usually how this shows up, right?
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is it's often in a lot of these insecurities that sort of define us, the things we want to avoid the most, is often where most of the power lies. Like me, I've hated mental health most of my adult life, especially after my childhood. I've been so against diagnoses and then on top of that insecurity, like, again, this is who I am. I have no reason I need to change who this person is. And as I started diving into this and discovering how I work, I felt so much fascination. That's why so many people who are in the healing scene are healers, is because this really worked for me. Now I want to share it. Right? And so but there is this realms of intelligence, right? You know, you could be geared more towards mathematics, to engineering, to nature, to people. And it's like we have these callings that we know we have a natural proclivity to being able to pursue and learn effortlessly. And it's just like the people who love people, they don't go after it because they're afraid to put themselves out there. The engineers are worried they're going to make a mistake in their drawings and have something mess up. You know, we doubt our own strengths, but it's in putting ourselves into the situations to master and gain that self-trust that is where the magic lies. You know, one of the number one things I do with clients that are stuck deep in the comfort zone is like, let's get you to a meetup group. What are you interested in? What are your hobbies? You know, whether it's playing cards or it's concerts, or music, better said, because concerts is where I send them, but it's figuring out where is something that calls to you, like you were saying, the pull. And then let's get you into the environment. Let's get you talking to people who share your interests, because you at least have something to have a dialogue about. Because often we're like, I don't even know what I'll say when I deal with people. And it's just putting yourself into situations in the things that you're passionate about. And it doesn't mean these things will become what you're now as your purpose, but I'll bet you money you will find a breadcrumb trail to your purpose through these events.
That's the first step. If something pulls at you, act on it.
Yeah.
Right? Stop letting it be theoretical. Right? Connect it with real life, real stuff. The second move is to find that thing that you keep getting pulled to, especially the thing that you want to avoid like the plague because you're scared of it, or you don't have confidence, or you don't trust yourself. Walk toward that.
Yeah.
I would say
you feel
run
alone
towards
and you want
it.
a relationship, go find a girl.
I would say run towards it, but you might trip and then give up. So walk towards it at least. Yeah, as Michael said, the magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. Yeah. That's almost 100% of the time. You know, that's just not posturing. That is really the crux of it for most of us. Face the fear. Face the wound. Have the conversation that you keep putting off. Sign up for that stupid class that you want to sign up for that you keep avoiding. You keep making excuses for. Right?
Go see those friends you've been avoiding because you've been afraid to show yourself. Like, have those hard conversations.
And I'm here to tell you, purpose grows faster when you're surrounded by people also pursuing a passion. Like back to what Michael's doing. He does this group, a class, and, you know, he shows up there and people show up, and now they have this place where they're all kind of passionate about this thing that Michael's doing. And in this case, he's teaching shadow work, but they're all finding shared purpose in this, shared passion.
Yeah.
Purpose will hardly ever reveal itself in isolation. It comes up in relationship because there's feedback, there's correction, there's service, right?
Yeah.
There's encouragement, but there's also the shared experience. Everybody is a student, which makes them the better teachers, right?
Yep. My last class, I gained so much wisdom just from someone in my class who had no idea. I do follow-up emails, so I'm looking forward to letting her know, like, you gave me some good food for thought. I appreciate you.
For every situation, there is an available solution. Sometimes it's not readily observable. Remain calm and have patience. The solution will materialize. It's one of our axioms of light. Finding purpose most of the time feels like a very confusing, unclear thing. Because we want the whole answer right now, and when we can't get the answer right now, we assume that there's nothing there. But this axiom teaches us patience and calm and trust and openness, right, Michael?
Yeah.
This doesn't mean sitting around forever calling it faith or just waiting for, you know, it means staying composed enough to recognize the next step, to see the clues of your purpose, to see the passions and the pulls.
Well, the more we allow ourselves to be open, and I think another big one for me that I realized through your teaching was, we can't rigidly hold on to what we think we need to become. Allow ourselves to be flexible, to move with things. If you're someone who feels really far behind in life, the goal right now isn't to decide who you need to become. It's to meet yourself with who you already are and to start exploring that Curiosity, man, it's one of the most powerful tools in our toolbox. To be curious about who we are and what lights us up. To put ourselves in situations where that light can shine. And we're around others who hold that perspective. Or can teach us more.
Right. Well, you got a degree in what was your degree in exactly?
Psychology.
Psychology.
Yeah, psychology.
Not to become a psychologist, but to become a teacher. You took this path, right? You had this passion. You took this path and ended up being something maybe not exactly what you expected. I foresee you becoming a great teacher. Yeah. Not necessarily a great psychologist.
Yeah, which is crazy because I'm going to go for my bachelor's and my master's, but it's like I still have no intention of becoming a psychologist because of the work I'm doing. Right.
Right. So I just use that as an example. You follow your passion and you end up in a place that you maybe not expected, but you're much better for it and you're much happier for it, right?
Yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, it's like, I know, and even my journey, I decided I need to go back to school. I went in for nursing. Then I realized nursing was a hard program to get into. So then I went to business, which is still partially like, okay, I want to do my own business, which is now we're doing this podcast. I'm teaching. This is all entrepreneurship. But even then, it was walking this path with you where it's like, okay, psychology is what I want to do. This is what fascinates me more than anything. But it took me putting myself out there, following that breadcrumb trail to slowly get there.
Yeah. And I think this is where people need the most help. Well, since we're on the topic of integration here, because just take the next step. When I say that, they're like, oh, that sounds really easy. But our body can make it feel dangerous depending on what's going on with us, right? What does one real hour of action create? Or I should say, why does one real hour, let's say an hour of action create more clarity than weeks and weeks of just thinking about it?
Exposure. I mean, it's being able to start teaching not only your mind, but your body that this is your way. This is what you want to do. Or you could learn, this isn't anything I want to do. I had a buddy who wanted to get into video game programming because he loved video games. Then he realized what that actually looked like, you know? And you know what? Good on him for realizing it well before he got into school because it was not playing video games all day.
Because then he would have hated video games. yeah, probably.
But I think the important thing for anyone listening, especially if you're someone that's resonating with being trapped, just being in that stuck place, you want to think of yourself like a rubber band. Your goal is to not flood your nervous system with the most difficult thing. I want to have hard conversations. I'm going to go join a big debate team. No, that is not where you want to begin. You want to ask
into
yourself
politics.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. But it's like, what's a meaningful stretch? What is something that is both uncomfortable but also sustainable? Again, the meetup group thing. Find a small group to begin with if you're someone who really dreads social interaction. But it's not giving that dread of social interaction the last say. It's being able to say, I'm willing to stretch myself this far. And it might take a couple times before you start getting more comfortable, but that's how you do it. Back in high school, I struggled with socializing so much. It was my greatest weakness. So much so I was told I might go to a home. And what did I do? I went to the mall every day and I asked 10 random people, what's the time? That's all I let myself do. Then I let myself ask about the weather, and then it became going into having conversations with people. And now I love talking to people. I will go talk to strangers and make friends everywhere I go. And if me from that time saw that, he'd be like, nah, that's a lie. You're not me. That's not how I work. But it took meaningful little stretches to get me to that place where I could finally stretch through a band as far as I wanted it to go. The magic you are looking for is in the work you are avoiding, right?
That's right.
So do you have any final thoughts on this conversation before we get to the closing exercises?
Yeah, just real quick. So if you leave this conversation, this episode with anything, just kind of let it be this. You're not behind. Don't be stressing out about it. Don't have all this anxiety around it. I don't care how old you are, how young you are. Just because you don't have all the answers doesn't mean anything. You're probably just stuck in this holding pattern where you're waiting for everything to be certain when really the path toward purpose is asking you to move forward. Action. Do something. Don't avoid everything. You may be trying to think your way into purpose when purpose is asking you to act. Maybe you were looking for this grand revelation when the clues and breadcrumbs were there the whole time, right? You need to be looking for things that bring you this quiet joy, the things you lose yourself in, the things you forget what time it is, right? The things that keep calling you. Right? What is a problem that you can't stop caring about or thinking about or finding ways to solve? Those are breadcrumbs. Those are clues. What desires show up as envy, even if it's gentle envy? What fear keeps guarding you from stopping you from moving? For us at Ashla, purpose is not only something that we find. It's something that we become aligned to. Something that becomes a path, a road we walk. The lesser self wants the whole map before it moves. It wants that certainty. It wants that safety and approval. It really wants that control. It says, show me a guarantee. Give me a guarantee. Then I'll start. But the greater self knows better and listens differently. It will ask, what is true right now? What is calling me right now? What am I avoiding? So that is where purpose begins to breathe. So this week, don't try to solve your entire life. You're not, you got time. Make the search more realistic. Give yourself 1 hour to something that's always kind of drawn you. And then start there. Right? So look, follow the pull, kick the door in, do your thing. Do your thing. Stop avoiding everything. Trust in that unfolding, especially in the unknown, and become someone who follows what's true. That's how you'll find your purpose.
Beautiful. And it's so true. Again, as we talk about finding your purpose and doing all these things, do not judge yourself from where you're at. You'd be amazed just how many people are right where you're at right now. But it's just about having the courage to take that next honest step into what could be a fulfilling life for you, even if you don't know what that is right now. Yeah. So for our exercise today, it's real simple. Just get a piece of paper and really reflect on this. Think about 3 times in your life, 5 if you can, from now to back when you were a kid. What things did you do that lit you up, brought you joy? Was it singing? Was it exploring nature? Was it working on a project with your dad in the garage? Like, what moments in your life just lit you up where time just vanished? Write those down and then ask yourself, what is one actionable thing I can do with this? If it's nature, maybe you can join a hiking group or just get out in nature through someone who just really struggles getting out there. If it was working in a garage, go to a workshop, a mechanic class, something that aligns with what you're doing. But go through this list and find one reasonable step that it's a stretch. Maybe not going to flood your nervous system, but will stretch you into discomfort so you can start growing and exploring and getting curious about who you are. For our affirmations today, I follow what pulls me. The work I avoid holds what I am looking for. I discover myself through living, not waiting. I belong in rooms that share my joy, and I trust each step to reveal the next. For our journaling prompts, what did you love doing before anyone told you what you were good at? What is the work you've been avoiding, and what might be on the other side of it? And where in your life are you waiting for certainty before letting yourself fully begin? Thank you so much for joining us today. Please check out the episode guide below to help you sort of map out what those steps could look like, help you have a week reflection on this very topic. Download a couple so you can pursue it throughout multiple weeks.
Yeah.
Awesome. And if you think this episode would help someone you care about, someone struggling with the isolation, the comfort zone, or just figuring out what they're doing with their lives, please share it. Also, like, comment, subscribe. These are the things that help us keep putting this content out there for you guys. Also, check us out on all the socials. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, we're there. And check out the best website ever,
newashla.com.
We love you guys. Thanks for making it through with us. Love and gratitude. Ad lucem.
Ad lucem.